I call today Mountain Monday, and the idea is it's better to start on top of the mountain instead of having the mountain on top of you. And when we start the week with the mountain on top of us, we feel the pressure, we feel the burden, we feel all of the responsibilities on top of us. And when we start the week on top of the mountain, it's because we have a sense of perspective, we have a sense of momentum, we have a sense of accomplishment even before we begin the week. Once you get above the tree line, then you can have the confidence to know if I focus on one thing, it will improve everything else I'm doing. And so it is about prioritizing the right project for the week. And what happens is we start the week mundane Monday, maintenance Monday, which is all good. But the same way you want to start with one important task every day, you actually want to start with one important task every week. And so this is like the boardwalk of your Monopoly board game. You actually want to go into the week with a big objective, realizing that you may not be able to knock out the whole project in just one day, but you're going to have a chunk of time that you're going to put into that one project. Now, if you already know what that big objective is, that big rock is, meaning one project that you can work on to have a big accomplishment that could create momentum for the rest of the week, then you're good. Just go right into it. But to be honest, I don't always start the week with that kind of perspective. And so Mountain Monday is also the idea of getting away so you can get clear, so you can get above the tree line. And it's totally okay if you don't know specifically what is that one strategic project that I can make big gains on. And so that's where that next step comes in, kind of a pre-step. How do I actually get clear on which mountaintop to be on in the first place? And one of the easiest ways to do that is taking time away and doing so really intentionally. And it feels very counterproductive. It feels counterproductive to go on a walk. It feels counterproductive to think strategically about your life and about your week. It feels counterproductive to plan something out. And so this is not a task list where you're thinking of all of the things you got to do. This is really a strategy session. And the difference between just writing down your tasks and actually working on your strategy is that your strategy is going to continue after you strike out all the tasks. So when you make a task list, you strike it off and then you'll never see it again. It's just going to be replaced with another task. It's like Tetris. That is the game. The game is you knock out one line and then another line's coming at you faster. That's just part of the game. What we're doing here is strategy. Strategy is saying, I've made good decisions that are worth repeating. And I'm going to work on this strategy one time, and now this strategy is going to work for me over time. It's going to work for me this week, next week, the next week, the next week after that. In fact, a good strategy can actually be shared with other people. And that's the difference between just delegating tasks and actually empowering a team. And so I would really encourage you will always have your own tasks to knock out. And so you fill that in as you go. But you've got to prioritize being strategic and seeing what's important right now. And that's where you identify which mountain to go for. Once you have a strategy of how you're going to advance, then get to the most important project for that day, and then you can have that momentum. Now, one of a few things are going to happen. Number one, you will either knock out that one and done objective in one day and you'll feel great. And you now feel like a winner the rest of the week because you made an intentional decision. This is important to me. I got it done and I can see the results for it now. There are some times though where you can't knock it out in a day. And that's why you'll be so relieved you started on Monday and not on Thursday. And so you still have that commitment. I call it one and done. You want to go for a one and done day, or you want to go for a one and done week. But the one and done is the combination of one strategic focus that is worked on until completion. So one strategic focus worked on until completion. And that's where the mountain comes in, because I draw a diagram of a mountain, and I'll share the link with you guys. But when you have the mountain, it's like a triangle that goes up, and then there's a funnel that comes down. And so top down thinking is thinking strategically, and you start with a lot of options, and then you're whittling down. That's that downward triangle. You're whittling down, taking it through the funnel, and you're scratching off options and ideas, things that you could, should, would do. And now you're saying, no, what's one thing that I will do? What's one strategic thing? What's the most strategic thing I can be doing right now? And it's not like you're going to hit a bullseye every time, but you're practicing this day after day after day. You're whittling it down to one most strategic thing you can focus on. And you practice that over and over, and eventually you learn how to focus on one strategic thing at a time, instead of trying to pick the perfect only strategic thing that there is. There's actually, you got to learn how to just think and identify what is the strategic target, at each phase of your day and your week. So it's a practice and a process. But that's the whittling down process. And many times we start with ideas and we start with fun and we're doing it. And we've got to learn how to do this over time. And then eventually we get faster and faster with this process. And you zoom in very quickly to, this is the one strategic thing I need to work on. That's one. Then we got to go up the mountain. We've picked that mountain, that mountaintop, Mountain Monday, right? We've picked that mountaintop moment. That's the summit we're going for. That's the one strategic summit we're moving towards. Now we got to climb that mountain. And those are the actual action steps we have to take to complete that one strategic focus, or that one objective, one project. And that's the work. And you have to implement, you have to make progress, you have to knock it out. And it's about not just going down the path of least resistance, which is beautifully manicured and it's paved and somebody's already made the sidewalk for you. But the path of least resistance actually takes you around the mountain, or it takes you the long way, and you only get nice views of the mountain. You never get to be on top of that mountain yourself. You can see the mountain in the background. You can take a selfie and say, look, I was this close to the mountain, but you're never on top of that mountain, because the path of least resistance never takes you to that intentional and hopeful future. It'll go around it. You can always dream about it one day. You can always say, someday I'd love to do that, but you'll never get there on the path of least resistance. You only get there in the uncharted way. And when you choose the uncharted way, you say, one way or another, I'm going to figure it out. One way or another, I'm going to get to the top of that mountain. And that's how you actually close the distance between where you are and where you're going. And it's the uncharted way. Many times we are expecting kind of like, paint by color. And we're thinking, okay, if I just follow the steps, I will get there. But what you're trying to accomplish is dynamic and fluid and always changing. And so you've got to be willing to take initiative, to be adaptive, and to go for it and say, yeah, I'm going to wing it. I don't want to say wing it like you don't have a plan. I mean, wing it like I'm going to make it work. I'll do whatever I got to do. I'm going to stay happy. I'm going to get scrappy, and I'm going to be resourceful, and I'm just going to figure out how to accomplish this objective. I have a outcome-based commitment, and I realize that there's going to be obstacles to get there, but I'm willing to navigate it. I'm going to navigate and create the goal that's in front of me. And so that's the done. That's the done part. So you have a triangle coming down. That's finding the one thing to focus on, whittling down. But then the triangle that's going up represents the mountain. That's you ramping up the commitment, ramping up the responsibility, ramping up the motivation. And many times we just have a little molehill of motivation. We just have this little speed bump, and it's like, oh yeah, I felt kind of excited about it, at breakfast, and then it wore off, and then I just did something else. I just started, scrolling on social media, or I just started working on something easy. But it's like we have to raise our expectation, raise our motivation, and say, no, I'm gonna go all the way to completion. I have identified something I can work on that will be strategic, and now I have to implement it. So that's Mountain Monday. That's the framework for Mountain Monday. I use it in the Pioneer Planning Guide. And again, you can use it for one day if you're already there, or you can just spend time being strategic and then use that as your framework for the week. And that just depends on the pace of your lifestyle right now. I do believe you can get to the point where you have Mountain Monday on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, because you're thinking that way. You know how to think strategically, and then take the uncharted way to results. It's not the path of least resistance, it's the uncharted way to most or intentional results. So that's that. Hope that was helpful with this kind of conversation to set you up, and then the framework that I'm going to include. You are good to go. Please reach out. I would love to have a conversation with you and actually personalize both Mountain Monday and the Pioneer Planning Guide for your leadership context.